I still remember the exact moment everything changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. There was no shouting, no broken glass. Just a hand, gripping my wrist. Derek's hand. He twisted it slightly, just enough to make his point. Not enough to leave a mark anyone else would notice, but enough for me to understand exactly what he was trying to say. This isn't your house anymore. He didn't even need to say the words. I looked at him, calm, quiet. Then I looked at my daughter. Cassandra stood just a few feet away watching it happen. Her eyes met mine for half a second. Then she looked away. She didn't stop him. She didn't say my name. She didn't move. That hurt more than his grip ever could. I slowly pulled my hand back. No anger, no reaction, just silence. Then I nodded, once, like I understood something important. Because I did. I turned around, walked down the hallway, and went into my bedroom. I closed the door gently behind me, and I started packing. Not everything, just what mattered. You see, I've spent 41 years working with my hands. Wood, mostly. Carpentry. You learn a lot doing that kind of work. You learn patience. You learn timing. And most importantly, you learn not to force things when the structure is already compromised. You don't fight a crack by pushing harder. You step back, and you rebuild smarter. That house wasn't just a place to live, it was my life. I bought it in 2004, after saving for more than 20 years. Every paycheck, every extra job, every weekend I chose work over rest. It all went into that place. I raised Cassandra in that house. Every wall had a memory, every corner had a story. And when she came to me 2 years ago asking for help, I didn't hesitate. "Dad, it's just temporary," she said. Derek stood beside her, quiet, looking tired, defeated even. He talked about his construction business struggling, about things slowing down, about needing time to recover. I believed him, because I believed her. So I opened my door. I gave them space, comfort, security. I never asked for rent. Never. Set rules. Because it was family, and family doesn't keep score. Right? That's what I used to think. At first, everything seemed fine. Then slowly, things started changing. Furniture moved around without asking. Music got louder. Strangers started coming over more often. My kitchen stopped feeling like mine. And Derek. Derek made himself comfortable. Too comfortable. He sat in my chair. Not just any chair, my chair, the one I'd owned for years, the one shaped perfectly by time and use, the one I sat in every evening after work. He didn't ask, he didn't hesitate, he just took it, like it was already his. And Cassandra? She stopped looking at me the same way. There was distance in her eyes, like she was measuring something, weighing something, deciding something. At first, I ignored it. Then I started noticing the small things. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Phone calls taken outside. Doors closing quietly. And one word that kept coming up. Equity. I didn't say anything, but I heard it, and I remembered it. The next morning, I woke up early, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table like I always did. The house was quiet, peaceful, almost like it used to be. I pulled out my phone and checked the property records, just to be sure. My name, only my name. No loans, no shared ownership. Nothing had changed. But something didn't feel right. So I checked my email. That's when I saw them. 3 messages from a company I didn't recognize. Subject line, home equity inquiry. My name, my address, my house. But I hadn't made any inquiry. I stared at the screen for a long moment, and something inside me went still. Not angry, not yet, just clear, because this wasn't a mistake. This was a move, and now I knew for sure. I wasn't imagining things. That same day, I didn't confront them. I didn't ask questions. I didn't raise my voice. Instead, I went to the public library, sat down at a computer, and started looking into Derek, carefully, quietly, piece by piece. And what I found changed everything. His business? It didn't fail recently. It was shut down over a year ago, completely dissolved. That rough patch story? It wasn't real. Then came the debts, court cases, unpaid loans, a bankruptcy filing, patterns of unfinished jobs, money taken, work not completed, different places, different people, same story. Again and again. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. My daughter had brought this man into my house. A man who didn't just struggle. A man who used people, and now he was trying to use me. That night, I didn't sleep much. I sat quietly and thought about the house, about Cassandra, about everything. And I made a decision, a simple one. I wouldn't fight him. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't expose him. Not yet. Instead, I would let him think he was winning, because men like Derek, they don't stop when you push back. They stop when they walk straight into something they never expected. And I was going to build that something, carefully, patiently. The next morning, I finished packing. Documents, tools, things that mattered. Walked into the kitchen, looked around one last time. Then I placed my key on the counter, right where they would see it. And I left. No note, no explanation, just silence. Behind me, I knew what would happen. Relief, laughter, celebration. They would think I gave up. They would think the house was theirs now. But what they didn't know was that something had already started. Something quiet, something precise, something that would take everything they thought they had and turn it against them. And this time, I wasn't building furniture. I was building a case. I didn't go far after leaving the house, just far enough. A place where I could think clearly, without noise, without tension, without someone watching every move I made. My old colleague Ray opened his door without asking questions. That's the kind of man he is. We've worked together for over 30 years, long enough to understand each other without needing explanations. "You need the room?" he asked. "For a while," I said. He nodded once. "It's yours." That was it. No curiosity, no pressure, just quiet support. That first night I sat on the edge of the bed in his spare room and laid everything out in front of me. The printed emails, the notes I had taken at the library, names, dates, numbers. I've spent my life building things piece by piece. And this was no different. You don't rush a structure if you want it to hold. You build it right. The next morning, I made my first call. A woman named Susan Greer, an attorney my accountant had recommended months earlier when I updated my will. At the time, it felt like routine. Now, it felt like preparation. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was calm, measured, the kind of voice that listens more than it speaks. I explained everything. Not emotionally, not dramatically, just facts. The house, the deed, the emails, the equity inquiry. When I finished, there was a short pause on the line. Then she asked me 3 simple questions. "Is your name the only name on the property?" "Yes." "Have you signed anything giving someone permission to act on your behalf?" "No." "Do you have proof of the inquiry?" "Yes." Another pause. Then she said something that confirmed everything I had already started to understand. That could be attempted fraud, not a misunderstanding, not confusion. Fraud. I didn't react right away. I just let the word sit there. Then I said, "I don't want to move too fast." She understood immediately. "Good," she said. "Moving too fast closes doors. Moving carefully opens them." We scheduled a meeting 3 days later. In the meantime, I kept building. I contacted the financial company that sent the emails, introduced myself, gave them my name, my address, and asked a very simple question. Who submitted this inquiry? At first, they hesitated. That's normal. People are careful when legal issues start appearing. So I gave them a reason not to hesitate. I'm the legal owner of the property, I said calmly, and I did not authorize any inquiry. If needed, I can escalate this through the proper channels. That changed things. The tone shifted. The answers came. Someone had submitted my information online, my name, my address, and part of my social security number, but not all of it. One digit was wrong. Just one. And that single mistake stopped everything. No loan, no approval, no damage done. But the intent was clear. I thanked the representative and asked for written confirmation. She agreed. When the email arrived, I printed it and added it to my folder. Piece by piece, step by step. By the time I sat in Susan Greer's office that Thursday, I wasn't guessing anymore. I knew exactly what I was dealing with. She read everything slowly, carefully, twice. No interruptions, no reactions, just focus. When she finally looked up, her expression didn't change, but her tone did. This is a pattern, she said. Not an incident, not a mistake. A pattern. She explained it clearly. The dissolved business, the debts, the prior financial behavior, and now this. This tells us intent, she said. And intent matters. I leaned back slightly. So what are my options? She didn't hesitate. We start simple, she said. We take back control of your house. Eviction, clean, legal, direct. No lease, no rent, sole ownership, she continued. You're within your rights. How long? I asked. 30 days notice, she said. Standard procedure. I nodded. That part was straightforward, but I wasn't done. What about this? I asked, tapping the documents. She understood immediately. We hold it, she said. That surprised me. Why? Because timing matters, she replied. If we use this now, it becomes emotional. If we use it later, it becomes powerful. That made sense. Everything about this had to be controlled, measured, deliberate. No rushing, no reacting, just building. File the eviction, I said. She nodded. I'll take care of it. And just like that, the first real move was made, a legal notice. Official, documented, unavoidable. But I didn't deliver it myself. That was important. Because this wasn't personal anymore. It was legal. It arrived at the house 2 days later. Certified, signed, received. Cassandra called me within an hour. Her voice wasn't calm. Dad, what is this? It's a notice, I said quietly. You have 30 days. Silence. Then frustration. You can't do this. I let that sit for a moment. Then I said something. Simple? Yes, I can. She tried to argue, tried to explain, tried to shift it into emotion. But I stayed steady. No anger, no raised voice, just facts. The house is mine, I said. There's no lease, no rent. This is the process. She hung up. Derek called next. His tone was different, controlled, calculated. We should talk, he said. I agree, I replied. Talk to my lawyer. Another pause. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I almost smiled at that. You made it bigger, I said, when you used my name. Silence. Heavy silence. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. That's fine, I replied. The documentation does. And then I ended the call, because there was nothing left to say. That evening, Ray and I sat outside his workshop. 2 chairs, 2 cups of coffee. No rush, no noise. He finally looked at me and asked the question that had been sitting there the whole time. You think she knew? I thought about Cassandra, about the way she avoided eye contact, about the silence, about the small changes that turned into big ones. I think she knew enough, I said. Ray nodded slowly. That was all that needed to be said, because knowing enough sometimes matters more than knowing everything. The next few days moved quietly. On the surface, it looked simple. An eviction process, a legal notice, a waiting period. But underneath, something else was building. Something bigger. Because I hadn't forgotten what I saw at the library, and I hadn't forgotten the pattern. Derek didn't just make mistakes. He left damage behind him. People, money, broken trust. And I had a feeling I wasn't the only one. So I went back to my notes, back to the records, back to the names, and I found one that stood out. A man connected to Derek's past. Someone who had lost more than just money. Someone who might still be waiting for answers. Wrote his name down, stared at it for a long moment. Then I reached for my phone. Because this wasn't just about getting my house back anymore. This was about something bigger, and I was just getting started. I stared at the name for a long time before I made the call. Thomas Whitfield. It was just a name in a file at first, a line buried inside Derek's past. One of many, but something about it stayed with me. Maybe it was the amount, $41,000. That's not a small mistake. That's not bad luck. That's damage, real damage, the kind that changes people. I picked up the phone, then put it back down, then picked it up again. Because this wasn't something you rush. You don't pull someone into a situation like this without being sure. So instead of calling, I wrote a letter. Simple, direct, honest. I introduced myself, told him who I was, told him who Derek was, and most importantly, I told him where Derek was now, living in my house, trying to use my name. I made one thing clear. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm just giving you information. I would have wanted, if I were you, I included my number. Then I mailed it. After that, I waited. And waiting is something I'm good at. Days passed. Nothing. Then on the fourth day, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Is this Harlan? The voice was steady, rough around the edges, like someone who'd spent years working outdoors. Yes. A pause. Then, my name is Thomas Whitfield. I didn't interrupt, didn't rush. I let him speak. I got your letter, he said, and I've been thinking about it. Another pause. You're telling me that man is still doing the same thing? Yes, I said calmly. Silence on the line, but not empty silence, heavy silence. The kind that carries years inside it. That man cost me 3 years of my business, Thomas said finally. And more than that at home. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. His voice told me enough. What are you planning to do? He asked. Legally remove him from my house, I said, and document everything. Another pause. Then, he said something that shifted everything again. There's something you should know. I leaned forward slightly. Before everything went bad with me, I heard about another job he did. He told me about a woman. Older. 70s. A homeowner. She hired Derek for a project. A sunroom. Paid him $12,000 up front. He started the work. Framing. Basic structure. Then he stopped showing up. Stopped. Answering calls disappeared. $12,000 gone. Left with half-built work and no explanation. I felt my jaw tighten slightly. Not in anger, in recognition. Because now it wasn't just a pattern. It was a trail. Do you know her name? I asked. Ruth Ann, he said. I don't remember the last name exactly. But she filed a complaint. That was enough. After the call ended, I went straight back to the records. Licensing boards. Public complaints. Old filings. And there it was. Ruth Ann Pelletier. 73 years old. $12,000. Incomplete. Work. Complaint filed. License suspended. 60 days. 60 days. That's all it took. That's all it cost him. I sat back in the chair and stared at the screen. $12,000 to her might have been everything. Savings, security, peace of mind, and, for Derek, it was just another move, another step, another person. That's when something inside me shifted again, because this wasn't just about me anymore. This wasn't just about my house. This was about a man who had been doing this over and over again. Different people, same result, and no one had stopped him. Not really, not completely. But now, there was a chance. I picked up the phone again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I found Ruth Ann's number through a public directory, dialed it, waited. 3 rings. Then, a voice, careful, guarded. Hello? My name is Harlan, I said. I'm calling because I believe we have something in common. There was a pause. You can always hear it. That moment when someone decides whether to hang up or listen. I'm not selling anything, I added, and I won't waste your time. Another pause. Then, go on. So I told her. Not everything, just enough. Who I was, what happened, who Derek was, and what he had tried to do. When I finished, there was silence. Longer this time. I thought maybe the call had dropped. Then she spoke. Very quietly. I knew it. Not angry, not surprised, just certain. I knew he'd do it again. There was no emotion in her voice, and somehow that made it heavier. She told me she had tried to push the complaint further, tried to make someone take it seriously, but people told her to let it go, that it wasn't worth the stress, that the money was gone, that it was over, but it wasn't over. Not really. It had just moved on to the next person. To you, she said. Yes, I replied. Another pause. Then I asked her something important. If there's an investigation, would you be willing to speak? Her answer came without hesitation. Yes. Not loud, not emotional, just firm, like a door finally closing. After the call ended, I sat there for a while, looking at everything laid out in front of me. Thomas, Ruth, Anne. The debts, the cases, the pattern, and now, me. 3 points connected. Maybe more, probably more. And for the first time, this didn't feel like defense anymore. It felt like something else, something stronger. Because Derek wasn't just facing one man now, he was standing on a structure built from every decision he thought he got away with. And that structure, it was starting to take shape. That evening, I called Susan Greer again. I told her everything. Thomas, Ruth Ann. The pattern. She listened quietly, just like always. When I finished, she took a breath. This changes things, she said. How? I asked. You don't just have a personal case anymore, she replied. You have a pattern of behavior across multiple victims. I nodded slowly, even though she couldn't see me. And that matters? I asked. It matters a lot, she said. Her voice shifted slightly, more focused, more precise. This is how larger cases are built, she continued. Not from one event, but from repeated actions. I understood. So what's next? We wait, she said. I almost smiled. Of course we wait. Wait for what? For the right moment, she replied. Finish the eviction, keep everything documented, then we take it further. Further. That word stayed with me, because I knew what it meant. This wasn't just about stopping him anymore. This was about exposing him. Completely. And the best part? He didn't see any of it coming. As far as Derek was concerned, he had already won. I had left the house. No fight. No resistance. No noise. Just silence. Exactly what he expected. Exactly what he wanted. And that was his biggest mistake. Because while he was getting comfortable, I was building something he couldn't see. Something patient. Something solid. Something that wouldn't just push him out of my house, but would follow him long after he left it. And this time, he wouldn't be able to walk away. The days leading up to the hearing moved slowly, not because nothing was happening, but because everything was. On the surface, it looked quiet. Just paperwork. Deadlines. Waiting. But underneath, Every piece was falling into place. Derek hired a lawyer, young, confident, the kind who speaks fast and hopes it sounds convincing. Cassandra stood beside him, not behind him, beside him. That told me everything I needed to know about where she still stood, at least for now. Their argument was simple. They had been living in the house for 2 years. No written agreement, no rent. But they claimed that made them tenants, that it gave them rights, that I couldn't just remove them like strangers. It wasn't a bad argument, but it wasn't a strong one either, because facts are stronger than arguments, and facts were on my side. The house was mine. The deed had one name, my name, no lease, no payments, no shared ownership, just generosity, mistaken for permission. The night before the hearing, I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel angry. I felt ready, because I knew something Derek didn't. This wasn't about emotion. It wasn't about family. It was about structure, and I had built mine carefully. The morning of the hearing, I wore the same suit I kept for serious occasions. Simple, clean, nothing flashy. Ray drove with me. He didn't say much on the way. He didn't need to. Sometimes presence is enough. When we walked into the courthouse, I saw them immediately. Derek sat straight, trying to look confident. But I've worked around men like him my whole life. Confidence isn't something you put on. It's something you carry. And his didn't sit right. Cassandra looked different. Tired. Quieter. Like something inside her had already started shifting. She glanced at me. I gave her a small nod. She looked away. That hurt more than I expected. But I didn't let it show. Because this wasn't the moment for that. We took our seats. My attorney, Susan Greer, stood beside me. Calm as always, focused, prepared. The judge entered. Everything went still. The case began. Their lawyer spoke first. Confident, smooth. He talked about time, about residence, about implied tenancy, about how 2 years in a home creates expectations, stability, rights. He tried to turn it into something emotional, something personal. A father pushing out his daughter. A misunderstanding turned into a legal fight. I listened quietly, because I knew something he didn't. None of that mattered, not here, not in this room. When it was Susan's turn, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue emotionally. She just presented facts. Ownership documents, property records, proof of sole title, no lease, no rent, proper notice served. Then came the photographs. Changes made to the house. Cabinet doors removed, walls painted, alterations without permission, even a statement from a building inspector. Clear, simple, undeniable. Then the judge spoke. Direct questions, sharp, precise. Did the respondents pay rent at any point? Their lawyer hesitated. Then, no. Is there a written lease agreement? No. The judge nodded slightly, then looked down at the documents again. That was the moment I knew. Not hoped. Knew. Because truth has a weight to it, and once it settles, it doesn't move. She looked up, her voice calm. Measured. The property is solely owned by the plaintiff. Pause. There is no lease agreement. Pause. No rent has been paid. Pause. The notice to vacate was properly served. Then the final words. The eviction is granted. Just like that. No drama, no shouting, no argument. Done. But their lawyer wasn't finished. He immediately requested more time. Hardship, adjustment, transition. The judge considered it briefly, then allowed an extension. 14 more days. 35 in total. Fair, reasonable. Enough. I didn't object because I didn't need to. I had already won the part that mattered. Outside the courtroom, Derek walked past me without saying a word. Didn't look at me. Didn't acknowledge me. But I could feel it, that shift, that moment when a man realizes things are not going the way he expected. Cassandra paused, just for a second, like she wanted to say something. But she didn't. She followed him. And just like that, they were gone. Ray and I walked out into the parking lot. The air felt different, lighter. Not because everything was over, but because the foundation had been secured. When do you get your house back? Ray asked. 35 days, I said. He nodded. Good. We drove back in silence. But my mind wasn't quiet, because this was only one part of it. The visible part. The simple part. Getting my house back. But the other part, the one Derek didn't know about, that was still building. That same afternoon, I made a call. Thomas Whitfield. He answered quickly. I heard, he said before I even spoke. News travels, especially when people are waiting for it. It's done, I said. 35 days. Good, he replied. Then he added something else. Ruth Ann already contacted the authorities. I paused. That was faster than I expected. She didn't wait, he continued. She gave them everything. I felt a small sense of respect settle in. Some people don't let things go, they just wait for the right moment. And? I asked. They're already looking into it, he said. And you're not the only case. That confirmed what I had suspected. There were more. Always more. Different names, different places, same pattern, same man. I ended the call and sat for a while, thinking, not about the house. That part was handled. I thought about Derek, about how many times he had done this, how many people had trusted him, how many had been left behind, and how, for years, he kept walking away, but not this time, because now everything was connected. The eviction, the records, the victims, the documentation, and soon, the investigation. That night, sitting outside Ray's workshop, he asked me something simple. What? About Cassandra? I took a long breath, because that question was the only part I didn't have a clear answer for. I don't know yet, I said, and that was the truth, because houses are simple. You fix what's broken, you rebuild what's damaged, you restore what matters. But people are different. Some things you can repair, some things you have to let go. The next 35 days passed slowly, then quickly, like they always do. And 3 days before the deadline, they left. No fight, no argument, no last attempt to stay. Just gone. A moving truck, a quiet exit, just like mine. And when I heard that, I didn't rush back. I didn't drive by. I didn't check, because I wasn't in a hurry. The house had waited for me once. It could wait a little longer. But when I returned, I didn't go alone, because some moments are better witnessed, and this was one of them.
I didn't go back to the house alone. Ray came with me. Not because I needed help, but because some moments are better when someone else sees them too. We pulled into the driveway just after sunrise, the same driveway I had pulled into thousands of times before. Same gate, same walls, same silence, but it felt different, not empty, not broken. Just waiting. I stepped out of the car slowly, took a breath, then walked to the front door. For a second, I just stood there, looking at it. 40 years of life behind that door. 40 years of work, memories, decisions, mistakes, everything. I reached into my pocket and took out the key, the same key I had left behind, the same key they thought meant I was done. I turned it, the lock clicked open, and just like that, I was home. The air inside was clean, to clean, like a place that had been wiped down, but not lived in. They had done what Cassandra promised, left it clean, dishes washed, counters cleared, floors swept, but the house still felt different, because even when people leave, they leave something behind. I walked slowly from room to room, taking it in. The living room first. Furniture moved, not the way I had arranged it. My chair, pushed into the corner, half hidden, like it didn't belong anymore. I walked over to it, ran my hand across the armrest. Same worn shape, same quiet history. I didn't sit down, not yet. Not until everything else was back where it belonged. The kitchen came next. Cabinet doors missing. Open shelves were there. Used to be structure, a style choice maybe, but not mine, not in my house. Ray stood behind me quietly. They changed a lot, he said. I nodded. They don't understand what it means to build something, I replied. We moved through. The hallway, the back room, the bedroom walls painted a deep charcoal. Too dark, too heavy. Not something you choose for a place meant to feel like home. I didn't get angry. I didn't react. I just observed, because anger doesn't rebuild anything. Work does. We opened the windows. Let the air move. Let the house breathe again. Then we started. Cleaning first. The real kind. Not just surfaces, energy, space, presence. I brought my tools back in that same afternoon. Carefully, one by one. Each piece placed exactly where it belonged. The study came back first. That room. Mattered. It always had. Ray held the measuring tape while I marked the wall. Same position as before. Same spacing. Same structure. Then I mounted the pegboard. Slow, precise, level. Just like I'd done years ago. When it was secure, I started hanging the tools. My father's chisels, the planes, the gauges, each one returning to its place. It didn't take long, but it meant everything. Because that was the moment the house stopped feeling like something I lost and started feeling like something I had taken back. Ray stepped back and looked at the wall. Feels right again, he said. I nodded. Yeah, it does. Over. The next few weeks, I worked, not fast, not rushed, just steady. Cabinet doors replaced, walls repainted, furniture moved back, piece by piece, room by room, restoring what mattered. Not erasing what happened, but rebuilding over it. Because that's how real repair works. You don't pretend the damage wasn't there. You make sure it doesn't define what comes next. 3 weeks after I returned, Susan called. The file has been submitted, she said. The report, everything. We had built, the inquiry, the documentation, Thomas's statement, Ruth N's complaint, the pattern, all of it. Sent to the authorities. I didn't ask what would happen next, because I already knew. These things take time, and time was something I had learned to respect. I've done my part, I said. You have, she replied, and you did it right. After the call, I sat in my chair for the first time since coming back. Really sat, leaned into it, let it hold me the way it always had. And for the first time in a long while, I felt still, not tense, not waiting, just steady. A few days later, I got a message from Cassandra. A new number, simple, we. Left it clean. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time. Because those words, they weren't enough. But they weren't nothing either. They were a beginning. So I replied, I know, when you're ready, call me. She didn't call right away, and I didn't expect her to. Some things take time. And this was one of them. A week later, my phone rang. Her name, I answered. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then she said quietly, I left him. I didn't react immediately. Not because I didn't feel something, but because I wanted to hear the rest. I didn't see it, not completely, she continued. But I knew enough. Her voice broke slightly, and I ignored it. I closed my eyes for a second. Because that part mattered. I'm trying to understand everything now, she said. The money, the lies, what he was actually doing. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. You will, I said. But take your time. There was a pause. Then she said something I'll never forget. I should have listened to you. I took a slow breath. Maybe, I said. But some things you have to see for yourself. She didn't argue, didn't defend herself, just accepted it. And that told me something important. She had changed. Not completely, not instantly, but enough. I want to know everything, she said. About what he did and what you found. You will, I said, when you're ready. Because truth, real truth, is heavy. And you don't drop it on someone all at once. You let them carry it piece by piece. After that call, things didn't magically fix themselves. They didn't return to how they were before, because that version of life was gone. But something new started forming, carefully, slowly, like everything else that matters. Ray started coming over once a week for dinner. Simple meals, long conversations, No pressure, no noise, just peace. One evening, sitting at the kitchen table, he asked me something. Do you feel like you won? I thought about it. About everything. The house, Cassandra, Derek, the past. Few months, I didn't win clean. I said finally. He raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I lost time, I said. Peace, trust. I paused, then added, but I didn't lose myself. Ray nodded slowly. That was enough. For him. And it was enough for me. Because in the end, this wasn't about revenge. Not really. It wasn't about anger or proving a point. It was about standing your ground the right way, patiently, carefully, without losing control, without becoming like the person who tried to take from you. Derek thought he was taking a house, but a house isn't just walls, it's structure, foundation, ownership, and those things you can't steal from someone who understands them. Weeks later, I stood on the back porch with a cup of coffee, looking at the garden beds, fresh soil, ready for the next season, the same way they had always been. Because some things don't end. They reset, they grow again, stronger, wiser, more aware, and that's when it fully settled in. Justice isn't loud, it's not dramatic, it doesn't happen in one moment. It's something you build, step by step, decision by decision, until one day you look around and realize everything is back where it belongs. And more importantly, so are you.